joined by Dr. Alan Mendoza, Executive Director of the think tank, the Henry Jackson Society. Good morning to you.
Good morning.
Are you optimistic?
Well, I'd love to be optimistic, but I think we have some way to go in both of these conflicts before they will be resolved. I'm sorry to say. Obviously, the Ukrainian one is likely to be the more intractable one, given the state of the war itself and the sort of the strength of the protagonists. Whereas I think the Israel-Hamas conflict will end sooner, but we've still got a few months, I think, before we can say that things have gone back to quiet there as well.
What sort of contribution can the international diplomatic community make to all of this?
Well, it's an interesting question. I mean, I think on the Russia-Ukraine front, what's quite clear is that when the international community supports the principles of free and democratic nations being protected against aggressors and supplies weaponry to Ukraine, Ukraine tends to start winning. So the message clearly is do more of that, because if you want your values to triumph in that war, you're going to have to put essentially the machinery behind it in order to enable the Ukrainians to win it. So the sort of question there is, how do you get to that resolution point? Equally on the Israel-Hamas side, look, this war would end tomorrow if Hamas either surrendered or its leaders left Gaza and gave up the hostages. And we've seen diplomatic pressure enabling pauses in fighting and hostages being released. Why don't we have more of that? That's clearly the way this conflict ends.
There are an astonishing number of elections scheduled to happen in this coming year. Is that going to create some instability, do we fear?
Yes, it might well do, because obviously, with the two big ones in particular, the US and the UK, as far as we're concerned, at least, this will be significant in terms of positions that people might take in those campaigns. I think that the UK situation is probably less sort of, is more static, I think, than the US, where there could be big shifts if, say, Donald Trump were to come into office. But I think, obviously, any election, by its very nature, means that countries are taking their eye off the foreign policy situation and focusing inwardly, and that will not be a good thing for conflicts like this.